So, as we get started on our calculations for the math part of the acid bases, we're going to deal with this acid base square. Everything you need mathematically is on this square. Um, so you need this as a reference. Actually, we're going to have one like that you can use on the test, so it doesn't have to be memorized. I really just need you to be able to use it um, easily without having too many problems. So we'll go through and work a couple examples, and I'll show you how to use this to make your life a little bit simpler. So on number 1, on your acid-base SeeSaw, it wants us to find the pH. This is what we're looking for when they give me the H+. So the deal with the square would be, it just told me what my H+ was. It has given me this information, and it's asking me to find the pH, correct? So on using the square, you really only have two objectives. Find out where you're starting. In this case, we're starting here. Find out where you're going to go, and then find the formulas that you have to use to get there. And it becomes a lot easier. I know this is a struggle for me to get many of you to do this. Write out your equations. Life becomes so much simpler, okay? And also, then when you're doing some of the other problems, you can go back and see what you did. I already had somebody last period who didn't show all the work that I'd written down, and then the first problem they got to do on their own, they're like, well, how did you get this? I was like, well, I wrote it down. Well, I know, but I didn't show that stuff. Well, isn't that the purpose of what we're trying to go through? So just try to do that, please. So we're starting here and we're going here. So we're going to follow the arrows. We're going to use this formula here. pH equals a negative log of my hydrogen ion concentration. I want you to show all your work on this blank piece of paper. That's why I provided it for you. It's the only way you're going to get credit. So we're doing number 1. And according to our acid-base square, we're going to use the formula pH equals the negative log of my H+. Write down the formula. Don't just plug it into your calculator. And then just, what do we have? pH equals the negative log, and it gave me the concentration here. It gave me a concentration of 5.46 times 10 to the negative 9th. Now, if you remember from Thursday, or maybe you do or don't, we could also approximate our pH by looking at this exponent. Our pH should be somewhere around a 9, right? So when we get the answer, we'll know if we got it, probably did it right or not. So now all you have to do is plug in this to your calculator. So everyone, I don't want everybody just to wait for someone else to do it. Here's your calculator. So you're going to hit the negative sign. The negative sign is down here in the corner. We're not using minus, so it's negative log 5.46. And remember, we don't put in the times 10. We do second double E negative 9. And then hit the equal sign. What do we have? Say it again. 8.26? Does anybody not have a calculator? Well, what are you waiting on? This calculator's up there. Get one. Kid, don't just sit there. Pardon? Well, you still need one. Get one. Down here, there's someone down here. Right? Everybody should have a calculator. I have more than enough calculators for everyone. Yes, sir. A base is above 7. An acid is below 7, yes. On some of these, for your SeeSaw, you can write down if it's an acid or base. I'm not worried about this column right now. If we are calculating the pH, I would go ahead and write it down. But those that we're not calculating the pH, I'll tell you a little trick on how to deal with that tomorrow. I really want to focus primarily on the mathematical portion of this paper for now. Okay, how about number 2? Number 2, it says to find the OH concentration. That's, remember, the square brackets means molarity, so we're trying to find the concentration of OH when it's given me my H plus. So my job is to look on here. They gave me the H plus, and I'm trying to find my OH. So this is the formula I'm going to use. So again, write down the formula. Show your work. I'm not going to accept you just writing down answers. That doesn't tell me anything. As far as I know, you could have just wrote down the answers from somebody next to you. This also helps you remember what to do. So, we look at our worksheet. It told me the H plus was 1.78 times 10 to the negative 10. So we're trying to find our H plus when our OH is 1.78 times 10 to the negative 10. Oh, I'm sorry, I got that backwards, didn't I? Yeah, everyone makes simple mistakes. It's okay. But it's easy for me to see that because I'm writing it all down. Now, for some reason, and I don't know why, but as soon as we start putting in scientific notation, some of our simple Algebra 1 skills go out the window. So as a quick reminder on how to find OH. If I had 2 times x equals 5, how would I solve for x? We do the opposite operation, right? You would divide both sides by 2 so that these cancel. So if I'm going to do it for that, wouldn't I do the same thing over here? We're going to divide both sides by 1.78 times 10 to the negative 10. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other. That means these cancel. And then all I have to do is plug those numbers into my calculator. So again, with scientific notation, we sometimes have a little trouble. So if you want to follow along, I'm not going to put it in myself, but I'll tell you, it'd be 1, and then we like to use the second double E, not the times 10. So it'd be 1 second double E, and then the negative sign down here, 14, divided by 1.78, second double E, negative 10. And hit the equal sign. What do we get? 5.62 times 10 to the what? Anybody? Negative 5? Okay. 5.62 times 10 to the negative 5. All we're doing in here is simple algebra. Okay, just because it has, but because it has scientific notation in it, sometimes we tend to think that it's a lot more difficult, or it's more difficult, not a lot more. Questions on that one? Okay, let's look at number 3. Our POH. Oh, let me go back. I want to skip number 3 for now. We're going to do 3. I want to do 3 last. Yes. In the front? Well, you really don't. I don't need. Sorry. I knew I was going to sneeze. As long as you have your answer on this paper here, this is what I'm going to collect because I need to see your work. But if you did want to write it, it would be in the blank in the front. And then on the side over here is where we're going to write if it's acid or base. So we're going to come back to 3 because it's a 2-step problem. Let's do all the 1-step problems first. Number 4. It says the pOH of a solution whose pH is 10.7. So again, we look at our pH square. We're looking for the pOH down here when they give us the pH. So this is the equation we're going to use right here. So it's pH plus pOH equals 14. So what did they give us? If we look at number 4, they gave us the pH of 10.7. So 10.7 plus pOH equals 14. Again, Algebra 1 skills, if you're going to get rid of something, you do the opposite operation. So if we're adding, the opposite of that would be subtract. You do that from both sides. And we end up having a pOH that is, what, 3.3? Is that right? I'm doing it in my head, but it's always good to use the calculator because you can make simple mistakes. I could have said 2.3 or something like that. So again, you're going to have a copy of this square for the test. You just got to be able to move that, find out where you start, where you're going, write down the equations, plug it in. Number 5. It says to find the H plus concentration when the pH is 8.2. This is an operation you don't do very often. So it says to find this one when we have the pH. So we're going in this direction, so we're going to use this equation right here. So the H plus is 10 to the negative pH. Well, what was our pH? Our pH, it says 8.2, so it's going to be 10 to the negative 8.2. So on the calculator, how would I do that? If you see, we used the log button before. 10 to the x is the opposite of that. It's a little space, it's the anti-log or inverse log. So all you have to do on this, you're going to follow along, hit second log negative 8.2 and hit equals. And what do we get? Say it again. Okay, 6.3 times 10 to the what? 9? struggle will be making sure you start at the right corner, and then, yes, using these, but probably half your struggle will be the calculator. I've also given you at the desk this little sheet here, and the two operations that you have the most trouble with are using the log and using the inverse log, and I gave you an exact example how to do that. It's attached to the desk there. So as you're working, if you forget, look at that. Okay, and the last one, number 3, and we're going to include that because it's a two-step problem. On number 3, they want to find the POH when we're given the H plus. So we're trying to find the POH down here, but we're given this corner. So you can go this direction or you can go this direction. They both will give you the same answer. You're never going to do more than 2 steps, 2 problems, a 2-step problem. I always think that using this equation is easier than using this equation for most of us, right? So I almost always will go through this road right here. So we're going to go from here to here, and then from here to here. So we're going to use the pH equation. pH equals the negative log of my H plus. That'll be step 1. So on number 3, it gave me an H plus of 2.45 times 10 to the negative 5th. Am I on the right problem? Yes. So our pH equals the negative log of 2.45 times 10 to the negative 5th. So again, in our calculator, we would put negative log 2.45, not the times 10, but we're going to use double E, negative 5. We should all be doing this and following along. Don't wait for someone else to do it. Okay? Remember how to use your calculator. And what is our pH? I know it's going to be somewhere around a 5, either a little bit above or a little bit below. 4.1? Okay, so my pH is 4.6. Is there another number? Is it 6.1 or something? Okay. So all that did was get us from this corner to this corner. But now I get to use this simple equation to finish it, right? So the second part of that would be pH plus POH equals 14. Well, I found what my pH was, so 4.61 plus my POH is 14. So again, algebra, if we're adding, we're going to subtract. What you do to one side, you do to the other. So that gives me a 0. 14 minus 4.61 should be 9.39. Is that right? So that's my POH. So you're never going to have more than 2 steps. Okay? Is it really that difficult to show all my work? No. And then tomorrow when you're working on something and you're like, oh, I can't remember how to do this, you can look back at your paper and you can show me and the rest of the world you know what you're doing. So today, I want you to finish working on, or start working on 6, 9, 10, and 11. Okay? So I want you to work on 6, 9, 10, and 11. We're going to skip over number 7 and 8 right now because you won't have to do that on the test. We'll come back probably and work on that. Yes, sir. So on number 5, we started with the H, and what were they asking us to find? So we went this direction. So you use, okay? That's why when I said when you drew yours, make sure you have the arrows correct so you know which equation you're going to use. And I'll come around and help you while you're working if you get stuck.